How you been?
I'm not too, I'm not too bad, thank you. I
Mm,
know obviously the circumstances that we're in. Some
yeah.
days have been good, some days obviously,
Mm,
have not been so good, but something, you keep going and you
true.
don't give up.
Yeah.
So you do what you have to do. It's a new season for everybody.
Mm,
For some people it's been good, for some people it's not so good, but in all
no.
things give thanks.
Mm. Yeah, especially during now, like during the times right now and the things that are happening around the world. Um,
Yes,
yeah, people really need to hear something like that as well, like just to stay strong and keep going, no matter
definitely.
what they're facing. Innit? So let's talk about you because you're a very creative person. Um,
If you say so.
I mean, your work speaks for itself. So it's not me saying it. It's your work.
Oh, thank
You know.
you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And you how do you describe yourself as just a poet or just a creative
Okay.
in general?
So I'm not just a one-trick poet. Yes,
Mm,
my brand is Poetry by Neree, but I'm all about spoken word. I'm all about creative writing.
mm,
I've
yeah.
always said I'm not a one-dimensional poet, even though when I first got back into writing, it was mainly around race and
Mm,
faith. However, I've had to sort of diversify if I want to reach a wider audience. I didn't just want to limit myself to those
mm,
two topics. And in the almost 5, 6 years that I've actually got back into obviously doing poetry,
mm,
you know, doing different things has definitely helped my writing as well. And just obviously hearing other people because there's a lot of inspiration that I have from
yep.
real life situations and from just the world around me. I mean, do I do things that are fictional? Sometimes, yes,
Right.
because obviously you've got to have, if I'm going to do something that's a comedic, that's when you're going to have a fictional side. But there's always a story behind every piece that I do
Mm,
as well. I think you can't just be a writer for the sake of writing. You've got to know what you're doing, what you're putting into it. You've got to have there's got to be some thought process
okay. So you
to it
actually have
as
to
well.
plan it. Like, is it never like
Yeah, the way I do my poems is, look, if something just comes to mind, or if I think, oh, I want to just try this, I would like plan it first. So I'll
okay?
write a few lines, but if I don't like what I'm seeing, I will always neaten it up as well, because at the same time, what you're putting your work out there. So if you want people to see, you've got to make sure that it's polished before you put it out. I would never put out something that I don't approve of myself,
Yeah.
um, as well. And that's why I say I'm not just a one trick. I am many things in this as well, even though
Mm,
it's just me. I
yeah.
am the face of my own brand. Everything that I've got to do is just on point. I am going to make mistakes. I'm not always going to get it right first time, but
Of
you
course.
learn. No, nobody taught me. Nobody taught me apart from being in school where I loved English,
Mm,
because that's where it all stemmed from, my love of English as
okay.
well. So nobody taught me how to write poetry or anything like that. I was sort of that doing that myself, but obviously when I got to say my early 20s, which was my 1920, when I started to get back into writing, that's when things started to kick in
Oh, okay. So,
again. But
sorry,
obviously
not to cut you
no,
off,
it's
but
fine.
so when did you actually start like getting into poetry? Is this like
Right,
before?
okay. So I started to get into poetry um, around my childhood. My childhood
Okay.
was obviously my first introduction to poetry. As I said, I loved English from a young
Mm,
age, like primary school, secondary school, getting into competitions, that sort of thing, really. And poetry was that thing in English that stood out to me because it allowed me to just write freely, be my own creative, do my own thing, really. Um, and then obviously it started from there, and that's how I started to get into it. I actually, and I've still got this book with me all now. My brother, the other poet in the family, bought me this book called A Poem for Every
ah,
Day of the Year, and I've had
there's two
that
of
since
you.
my childhood. There's two of us,
Yeah.
yes.
Wow, that's good.
We are very two different poets and spoken word artists, but we're both passionate about what we do,
Okay.
really. So some of the time I did look up to him and I listened to the style. So some of my delivery came from him, and some of the stage techniques as well came from him. But
Mm.
everything I do is just all me, and I sort of adapted my way of doing things, really.
Yeah, yeah, like
So
your own spin on it, or your own unique character
yeah,
in the performance.
definitely. I have a
Okay.
unique name, so I've got to have a unique spin on it.
And Neree is definitely a unique name. I've not heard it anyway.
Yeah, don't even, not even Google knows what it is. But
Yeah.
I did find recently, a couple of months ago, that there was a French Canadian poet named after myself, born in the
Mm.
1860s. But
Oh.
it was a man. But the difference is they've got the name with the accent.
Oh,
So,
okay. Yeah, yeah.
so yeah, Neree, who came in and never heard of him, I was just like, oh, okay, I was probably born
Uh,
to do this.
okay. You were saying before, like, that you only limited your poetry with race and being.
Yeah, at first, when I
Yeah.
started to get back into writing, because when I started to get back into writing, I wasn't living in Birmingham at the time. I was living
Oh.
in a small island that didn't have many Black people my age group on, Jersey. And I think it was around the time when it was the Mike Brown, Eric Lloyd
Mm.
situation. And obviously, there was more open conversations. And I did feel some way about it, because for a while, I just felt like there was a gap where there wasn't a lot of talk about racial discrimination openly. And I just thought,
Mm.
I've got all these thoughts in my head. I'm feeling this way. I just need to put it onto paper. So I just started writing,
Mm.
just randomly just got out my book.
Yeah.
And it just started all there. And it just started there, really. And then when I moved back to Birmingham, um, not long afterwards, you know, I still was, I think I still was writing in between and stuff like that. But then I thought to myself, I don't want to sit on it. I want to share my poetry a bit more. And it wasn't
Yeah.
after a performance at a church that I thought, you know what, that following weekend or 2 weekends later after that church service, Poetry by Neree just came, and it's been there for 5 years, over
Yeah.
5 years now. I started from my Facebook page and I've expanded
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
single-handedly. So
Well,
very
yeah.
grateful for that.
Yeah. It must have been tough to do it by yourself, but you still managed.
Yeah, I
Mm.
still managed. And even though I started from the race and the faith,
Mm.
you know, having to explore different things has definitely helped my writing, because you can't put yourself in a bubble. Yes,
Mm.
know your audience, but don't put yourself in a bubble.
Yeah.
Don't put yourself in a bubble, because I've done something for a wedding. I've had people ask me to do different things for church services, that sort of things.
Mm.
Obviously the poetry slams, the open mics,
Yeah. And
because it was
also, the person that introduced me to you also said you're
yeah,
writing a poem for him as well. So you
yes.
do like.
That's in the works at the moment.
uh
I'm currently collaborating um with that. I'm not going to give too much details
don't you don't
on
have to.
that, but yeah, that's currently in the works at the
Mm.
moment. So I'm just going through a drafting stage, and then hopefully that should be out. I'm hoping the end of September, October, but obviously,
Oh, okay.
when you see it, you see it.
I can't wait. I can't wait. Uh, that's actually interesting as well. So I wanna ask you as well, like how long does it take you to write a poem from start to finish? That
Okay,
depend on other stuff,
that's a
or
very good question. That's a very good question. It depends
yeah.
on what it is, and it depends on how long the poem is, because
Okay.
obviously different poems have have a different languages, have different language to it as well.
Uh,
Because obviously I'm expressing in the mindset if I was that person. So usually some poems can take me a couple of days, because obviously I'll go back and forth, especially if it's for somebody. I want to make sure
mm,
obviously it stood right. But it can take up to probably 5 minutes to up to a week.
oof.
So
Okay.
it all depends as well. And some people might say, oh, there's no rush to it. So obviously I can take a bit of a break, focus on any other stuff,
Mm,
um, as well, especially obviously building my brand. And I can do that, but just remember, look, this person needs something as well.
yep.
So I would, when it comes to obviously people, I will always make sure I have a deadline. I say, look, how long? So,
Oh,
you
okay.
know,
So
when
you still give yourself that
I
that
still give
restrict.
myself a deadline, because at the
Yeah.
same time, you know, if you have an obligation to me, especially as a creative writer, you don't want to miss that
Mm.
deadline, because obviously, you know, that's everything. That's everything.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah,
Because at the
no
end of the
matter what
day,
occasion.
yeah, at the end of the day, you need like results, right?
Oh
Something
yeah.
to show for it. Yeah.
Oh, definitely,
Uh,
definitely. So yeah, you know, as I said, 5 minutes is probably the shortest time. You know, if the words just come out
oh,
straight,
yeah.
it can be less than that, because obviously, you know, the shorter the poem, the less
Yeah.
time it can take. So
All right. What kind of poetry do you like or do you prefer? I mean, I guess you like all type of poetry, but
yeah,
is it spoken word or is it short form poems or
I don't have one particular topic or
mm,
type. I'm very versatile.
okay.
And I think my versatility speaks for itself, because obviously sometimes I can express the poetry in first person, second person, or third person,
Yeah, okay.
or it can just be a passage as well. I'm just writing a passage. So for me, I can't say I can pick one. I like all as
Mm-hmm.
well, because I'm able to express myself through all forms
Okay.
as well.
Yeah. It's kind of like or maybe it's a bit of a stretch to compare it, but it's kind of like hip hop, and in the way it's
Yes.
like it comes in various forms. Like there's rapping or MCing, and then there's like beatboxing, and then there's dancing. Like
Yeah.
I like all forms, but I can't choose
Yeah.
which one's better than the other.
No, it's hard. It's not like singing, dancing, or music. Poetry is it's a it's a very complicated art at times. It's not like singing, dancing, where
Mm,
you can distinguish between the two. You know, poetry, it's all about the words, so you're hearing people speak. But
okay.
if there's one thing I would say I dislike about poetry, is that some poems can be forgotten, because I've been to some competitions, I've heard some
Mm.
poetry, and I'm just like, I don't hear the depth to it. I'm like, give me something that will remember, that I can remember it by. Like, I'm watching
Ah,
you. I want to enjoy you
so
as well.
what what is it? What's that thing
I
that
just want to hear
helps you remember it? Yeah.
something that summarizes like the meaning behind it as well, because you can hear some
Mm.
poems and you just have no idea what it's about as
Uh,
well.
so like
And
it
that's
can
the
be
thing.
too abstract sometimes.
Yeah, it can be too abstract. You know, I'm not
Okay.
saying everything has to be mushy and silky and all of that sort of stuff, but you know, give me something that I can just say, you know what, that was such a good piece.
Mm.
Just give me a line. Just give me a line. But regardless, I'm still gonna clap for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm still gonna clap for you, because it's a sign of respect. It's a sign of respect.
All right.
And I would want someone to do that to me. However good or bad my performance is, because
Mm.
I've had some of those nights.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, I've had
Yeah.
some of those nights. You know,
Oh,
you look at some of my skills, and I can tell you the worst performances I've had
please.
in the last year. So yeah, I would want people to clap for me as I've done a bad performance, the way I
Mm.
would do for somebody, because that's just who I am. I respect everybody's art, because it's not easy getting up on stage.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Uh,
can't imagine like the. It must be pretty nerve-wracking. That's for sure.
I think the build up
Mm.
towards it, you prepare for it, and you're like, okay, yeah, I got this. But it's when it's that build up, that's when you're
Mm.
quite, when it sits in to say, oh my goodness, I'm doing this. They're gonna call my name. No turning back.
Yeah.
No turning back
No. No, so
whatsoever.
is that how you prepare yourself? You like you tell yourself like there's no turning back, so you might as well.
No turning back. Yeah, I may as well, like, I'm here now.
Yeah.
I may as well do it, because you know, if it's just me one on that stage,
Mm.
it's me, my phone, my book, and I've got the stage.
Right.
So, you know, and obviously the audience as well, you just never know. So you've got to put yourself in the mind frame, no matter how many times you prepare or anything like that. You are gonna get nervous. because at the same time, you just don't know who's going to be there. You just
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah. Like I hear a lot of people who like performance artists, they're always saying like no matter how many times they get on stage, and this is like either like coaches or public speakers, they're like
Yeah,
they always have that nervous feeling, but it's
yeah,
more about accepting it and just doing it anyway, right?
definitely. And I think another thing is it depends on the piece that you do, because
Mm.
there's times I've had a piece and I'm just gonna be like, I'm looking at this audience, I might want to scrap it, but then I'm like, no, I'm gonna do it. No, I'm gonna do that. And I think that happened I think it was one of my last performances just before lockdown at the
Mm.
Birmingham Hippodrome. I was at the
Oh,
Verve
cool.
Poetry Festival,
Yeah.
and not only did I perform, I also volunteered as well a few days later as well. Because I
Oh,
like to get involved. I like to get involved in community activities um, as best as possible. I like to serve people. So one of the poems that I did in that selection there in the open mic on the opening night at the Birmingham Hippodrome, very big venue. I didn't
yeah.
realize
It is.
that I had another mini big theatre. It was a race topic. I went back to the stuff that I wrote, and it was a fresh new piece. Never read it before,
Mm.
and it was about obviously race stereotypes with regards to black females and so forth. We would get stereotyped with angry. I didn't even know what was to come from that. The whole George Floyd thing. You
Yeah, the
couldn't
George Floyd
uh,
thing. Yeah.
happening. So that was the first set, the first piece at that set, the Birmingham Hippodrome,
Mm.
and I read that, and people clapped. And it so happened during my volunteering session, people a few days, regardless of where they were from, because it was hard to get to the festival from all over the world.
Yeah.
I think that was my internet then.
Like your internet, because mine messes up sometimes as well. Um,
Yeah, I
it's
think that was
usually
me.
at this time, it's usually not as bad because most of my
Yeah,
flatmates are out.
yeah,
Yeah, you were saying, I think it was,
yeah. The Birmingham Hippodrome.
yeah.
So yeah, I did a poem. I did a poem that I hadn't done for a long time on race, and I just
Mm.
thought, you know what, it's time that I did a poem about race openly in front of a performance. I was going to scrap it at one point, but I just thought, you know
Oh,
what, I'm going to do it, because at the
that's
same
what
time, I think
happened.
we need to hit we need to hear that we need to still speak about it,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
because we're not seeing the protests and stuff like that. We need to still speak about it, and I
yeah.
shouldn't really you know allow that to hinder me from you know at least trying to educate
Mm.
in through my art.
Yeah,
So, I did that. That was the first set of the selection of poems that I read that night, because I had about 5-10 minutes.
right. Yeah.
And people that saw me there from on the Thursday night, when I was volunteering on the Saturday and Sunday, they came up to me and said, "Oh my goodness, I recognize you from the other night."
Mm.
And even the creative artistic director, bless him, he
Yeah.
came up to me on the Sunday. He said, "Absolutely amazing." And I got a little bit starstruck, because I thought, Birmingham Hippodrome is a big venue. The creative artistic director is coming up to me.
Mm.
I did a poem about race, and you said how amazing I am. So,
That's,
that
that's powerful right there. That's what that was.
that goes to
Yeah.
show that the message wasn't forgotten. They
Mm.
knew what they were hearing.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I'm guessing it resonated with almost everyone that was watching you.
yeah. Well, it was a mixture of black and white,
Mm.
black, white, and Asian. As I said, people from all over the world flew, because that is probably one of the biggest poetry festivals in the UK,
Oh,
Verve.
okay.
Yeah, I had the map, I had the program, and I thought, this is absolutely massive. Literally, this is huge. Even some of the people that obviously I see at some of the slams, they were there as well. So, it was good to see a familiar face there. And I took my brother with me as well. And
Okay.
he did open mic as well that night. So it was just good just to be involved in any capacity, really.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I like to get involved obviously with the community. I like to do my bit as well. So you know,
That's,
hey, I did that.
you did. You did. Like,
I did that. So
but that
yeah,
must have been a great experience though. Like,
it was.
yeah.
because I got to see other poets as well. One of the things that stood out to me was, I think it was a Black artist, and he not only had his DJ decks, he was DJing and speaking over his music at the same time, rapping, but it was in a poetic fashion. You hear rap, but you haven't heard rap in that sort of style. And I thought, this is very unique and different.
Right, yeah.
And obviously I heard some of the Caribbean stuff, which was very good as well. You know, because with a festival of that nature, there's got to be something for everybody.
Yeah.
Just like me, I'm giving something for everybody because you want to develop your audience.
Yeah, that's true.
As well.
So is like, how much does race play a part in your poetry? Like, say race, also religion as well?
Religion plays a big part as well.
Would you say it plays a bigger part than race?
I would say they're both even.
Okay.
Because at the same time, you know, I'm Black and I am a Christian at the same time as well. You know, it's only, I think, in the last year or so, I've started to get back to writing on that because I wanted to explore other avenues in my poetry as well. But I realized actually I need to start getting back to what it is. But because I've been advertising in different venues and things like that, and magazines, you know, I didn't want the audience to think, oh my goodness, this girl is just too, you know, stereotypical Black female. You know, I've got to be careful, but at the same time, you know, I still want people to see a side of me that doesn't forget who I am as well. And I did openly talk about the Black Lives Matter when it came to the Artist Blackout Day. I did the Black Square on my Facebook page. I did it on Instagram, and I said, look, you know, I'm not ashamed. I am a Black, before anything else, I am a Black female. And, you know, and I don't think anyone had seen that before because I strayed away from doing the whole race thing when it comes to my poetry. But obviously I thought, you know what? I still want people to realize, regardless, I am still Black. I am still a human, you know. You know, racism isn't over. I do not tolerate racism in my art. You know, I want to be taken seriously, regardless of my background and who I am.
Yeah, I like that.
Well,
I love that. I love the fact that you recognize that yes, you are a human. Like yes, you are a Black woman, but you also say that there's more to you than just the color of your skin. Like, and that's why you're trying to pursue these different avenues of trying to express yourself. Yeah. And that's I love that. I love that when people not just realize, but when they express it that way, like, yes, I'm Black, but I'm also all these other things. I'm also, you know, I'm also a mother, I'm also a sister, I'm also, you know, I'm also a Christian, I'm also someone who's trying to search for truth out there, someone who's just trying to live their best life, like not add any more pain to the world, because there's already enough pain out there, as we can see.
Too much.
Too much. Way too much pain, but yeah. And I don't know, like, do you think, because I feel like it's like the frustration that you mentioned before of having like there's not enough open dialogue about like race topics, especially in the UK and stuff.
We still have a long way to go. Until people, you know, recognize that actually you have no idea the shoes that we have been, the shoes that we are in. Because if we make one wrong move, no matter big or small, we're automatically labeled. And I think this is why I am grateful for, obviously, movements like the Black Lives Matter. I am grateful for people being more open in social media and so forth, because at the same time, it's either we stay silent and we don't have anything to influence change, or we actually do something and stop talking. Because for me, for many years, there's been a lot of talk, but not enough action. And that's sort of, I think, stunted the growth of the wider Black community in general because of that. And obviously, it has obviously impacted mental health and so forth. I mean, look at the Windrush scandal, for example. I'm using this as an analogy. Who would have thought somebody who's been living here all of their lives, all of a sudden has been told, I have to go back to the country where I literally haven't built any roots, any foundation.
Yeah, and they're I think, well, correct me if I'm wrong, they're related, or their relatives are the ones that fought in the war for Britain as well. Yeah.
Yes.
So there's that to add on to it as well.
Yeah. You know, that saddens me. And it saddens me to the fact that people are obviously dying as a result of the stress of that as well. You know, that's when you're talking about the Windrush generation, you're talking about a generation that practically built Britain to what it is now. They were the pioneers of the Black culture. Behind the scenes, they were working, and you're taking that right away from them.
Yeah, because the thing is, like, of course, the Black people in the US have had a different history to Blacks in the UK. So for some reason, when people talk about racism, they only focus on the US because I guess it's more blatant there. Like, you can see it more clearly or something. And then here it's more
everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah, like it's everywhere. It is like, and I feel like people, I don't know, like people struggle to talk about it with others. Like, say, talking to white people about race.
Yeah,
I feel like some Black people don't want to talk to white people about race because they feel like white people can't understand. They can't understand their plight. They can't understand their experience. So how do you?
And that is true.
Yeah, and how would you go about doing that then? Like, how do we have a more open conversation about race? Because of course you're gonna have to speak to white people about it. Like, we
have to,
and you know, it's like we're what are we, like 4% of the population or something? Yeah. So there's gonna have to be some open conversations about it.
It's gonna have to be more open, and I think, you know, it starts from, look, you have to start from way back, the historical times, until the current day, to say, because of that, there is still that, okay, there is a superiority over Black people. There is a white superiority over Black people in this moment in time. Everybody think, oh, well, that's not true. That's not true. You know, it's not about color of the skin.
Yeah.
But at the same time, would you do that for somebody of your own color? Highly unlikely. Would you make somebody feel really, really bad if they were the same color as you? No, but you put more pressure on that person, making them feel uncomfortable because they might not see certain things, but we do, and it's all about us reading in between the lines.
Right. Like, so
it's
almost like the lens through which you see
reality. It's about, I think it's about putting people putting themselves in people's shoes and seeing it for themselves, and not realizing, actually, just think before you act, think before you speak as well, because there is still a lot of stereotyping.
There is.
Still, there is.
I feel like most of it comes from a place of ignorance.
Yeah.
So